Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. Today we are going to be talking about breastfeeding, okay? Take this as your breastfeeding 101 masterclass because today I'm going to be sharing some of my overall experience with breastfeeding my two kids, 4-year-old and 1-year-old, who is actually still breastfeeding. All right, so I really hope that YouTube algorithm does his thing and shows this video to as many new moms as possible, especially those who have little to no idea about breastfeeding. So let's start from the beginning, right? Because to me, that's usually the part of breastfeeding that a lot of people struggle with, right? So with my first baby, my milk came in, I think, around day 3 or so. But before then, I was already leaking milk. I was already producing milk. Sometime towards the end of my last trimester, I could see few drops of milk from my breast, okay? And to be honest, that was actually weird, all right? Because, I mean, I've never experienced anything like that. But with my second baby, my milk came in on day 1, okay? How lucky is he? So, in case you didn't know, the first milk that your body produces, either before you have your baby or on the day you have your baby, whenever the milk comes in, the very first milk, you may have known this already, but for the sake of those that don't know, that first milk is called colostrum, okay? And that milk, my dear mommies or future moms or new moms, is the liquid gold for your baby, okay? It has a lot of nutrients and antibodies that will help with your baby's immune system. It's slightly yellowish in color and it can be thick and a bit sticky. It's not as free flowing as normal milk would be, but that's the liquid gold for your baby, okay? If you notice that your breasts are leaking milk before the day you have your baby, it's highly advisable that you find a way to collect that milk. You can collect it in syringe. You can put some milk catcher or milk collector, the little ones that fit around the nipple. Just find a way to collect the milk and store it, okay? Because your baby is going to need it when they are born, okay? So one thing I learned very quickly is that at that beginning stage, the size of their stomach is very small, okay? So it's very easy for new moms to think that they are not producing enough milk at that stage, but trust me, you are, okay? They are getting just as much as they need, okay? Now you might be wondering, how often should you breastfeed your baby, especially in the beginning stage or maybe even later? You should try to breastfeed your baby at least every 3 hours, okay? Now that doesn't mean that when your baby is hungry and crying or showing any signs of hunger, you should just fold your arms and wait for 3 hours. No. In that beginning stage, it's also very advisable that you breastfeed them on demand, okay? A feeding session can last anywhere between let's say 10 to 45 minutes, sometimes more, sometimes less, okay? And I remember my midwife saying something about letting them feed for at least 15 minutes on each breast, okay? So if we go by that, we can say maybe 30 minutes. Like I said, is more or less. Make sure you offer your baby both breasts during each feeding session, okay? Make sure you bob them after feeding, and most importantly, you should make sure that you alternate which breast you begin with, okay? So let's say you start with the left breast now. Next time when you're about to feed them, you should start with your right breast, okay? So you also notice that at the beginning stage, they are cluster feeding, okay? This is something that I actually experienced with my first baby. I didn't know it had a name until when I had my second baby. I remember the midwife coming to my room that time and we were just discussing, and somehow she mentioned cluster feeding and I was like, oh, what's that? And she explained to me. I was like, oh, I didn't even know that's what it's called. So cluster feeding is basically when your baby is breastfeeding every now and then. It looks like they're breastfeeding round the clock, okay? You can feed them now and maybe in the next, like, I don't even know, maybe 45 minutes, they are crying again or they are showing signs of hunger. Another thing I noticed is that this cluster feeding thing actually happens in the evening or through the night when they are just making you wake up every now and then to breastfeed them, okay? Don't worry about this. It's normal and it's not going to last forever, okay? It's actually helping you, okay? It actually helps you to produce more milk because breastfeeding works like demand and supply. So the more you put your baby to your breast, the more you get them to suck on your breast, the more milk your body is going to produce. And one way to actually know or have an idea if they are getting enough milk is to listen and observe them when they are feeding. Okay, so you are checking if they are doing that sucking and swallowing sound. Okay, another way of course is by their wet diapers, right? So I remember my midwife saying something about day one you should expect one poop diaper and one wet diaper. That's one pee, that one pee, one poo, something like that. Okay, day two, two pees, two poos. Okay, just a way to have an idea if they're actually getting enough milk or not, because if nothing is going in, then they wouldn't be able to make any wet diapers, right? Another thing you need to know is that when babies are born, their weights normally drop a little bit, but within the first few days or weeks, they should get back to their birth weight, pass the birth weight, and then just keep gaining weight from there. Okay, so let's talk about latching. Okay, because a good latch on your breast will actually help the baby to get the milk in. Okay, so for me, I didn't really struggle at all with latching. My two babies, they came into this world ready to suck. I don't know, maybe they had some tutorials while they were in there, but I feel like they're the ones that actually helped to make my breastfeeding journey easy. Okay, so even though I didn't really experience any issues with latching, I didn't have any latching issues at all, but one thing I do know is that to get a good latch, your baby should have the whole of your nipple in their mouth and some parts of your areola. Okay, that's the dark parts, the dark circle surrounding your nipple. Okay, so they should have more than just your nipple in their mouth. Also, you should have their chest and their stomach resting against your body, and their chin should sort of be touching your breast. Okay, make sure that there's a space between their nose and your breast. Okay, because if you push their nose right into your breast, they will be uncomfortable and they will try to pull away from your breast in order to kind of adjust themselves. So when your baby is latching on your nipple, when they are sucking on your breast, you shouldn't feel any pain at all. It's okay to feel a bit of discomfort or sore nipples at that beginning stage. Okay, and that's because your nipple is just getting used to the whole constant sucking, the whole every now and then somebody is sucking on them, because they are not used to that. Okay, and you're going to need a good nipple cream during that beginning stage to protect your nipples. Okay, you can check out the video I made on breastfeeding essentials. I'll have them linked in the description box. Okay, so if you experience painful latching, or maybe you're having difficulty getting your baby to latch properly on your breast, I highly suggest that you seek a lactation consultant so that they can help you out with this. Okay, now speaking of pain during breastfeeding, although you shouldn't feel any pain in your nipple when you're breastfeeding, there is a different type of pain that you are going to feel when you're breastfeeding. Okay, or at least I felt it. Okay, and that's the pain, the one that feels like uterine contraction. Okay, simply put, it feels like menstrual cramp. Okay, like a stronger, a more painful type of menstrual cramp. So I remember with my first baby, whenever I'm breastfeeding him, I'm feeling this pain and I'm like, what's going on? Because I had a C-section with my two babies. Okay, the first time I felt it, I thought something was off, so I had to call the midwife and ask them, and then they explained it to me. Okay, so I've actually read about this in theory, but I didn't know the pain is supposed to be that painful. Okay, so basically when you are breastfeeding, your uterus is contracting in order to get back to their pre-pregnancy size. Okay, let's talk about when your milk finally comes in. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind with breastfeeding is that when your milk finally comes in, your breast will feel very heavy, it will feel full. It happens very quickly. Okay, you can wake up overnight with breast that is as hard as rock. Okay, and you will notice that during this time your baby might not be able to completely empty the breast in one feeding session. Okay, this is a good time to start pumping, to start expressing your breast milk. It's also a good time to start building your breast milk stash in the freezer, because you are going to need them later on. Okay, and the more you express, the more you pump, the more you empty your breast, the more milk will come in. Okay, you will also notice that at this time you are going to be leaking a lot. This is something that I experienced so much, both with my first and my second baby. Okay, you can wake up one morning with breast milk stains all over your clothes, maybe your sheets. You might also experience some breast engorgement every now and then, because remember now your breast milk have come in fully. I normally use this silicone breast pad. I normally just warm it up in the microwave or put it in the freezer, and I use it to massage my breast just to relieve some of that pain and pressure that comes with breast engorgement. Now, the next thing I would like to talk about is how my milk supply decreased and how I got it back. Okay, let me know in the comment section if you're a mom, if you are currently breastfeeding, or if you breastfed your babies. Did you at any point in time notice a decrease in your breast milk supply? So I went back to work around 4 months postpartum. Okay, before I went back to work, my breast milk supply was good. It was fantastic, and I had a lot of breast milk stored in the freezer. Okay, now I went back to work, and within, I think, 3 or 5 days of going back to work, my breast milk supply went from 100 to 0. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating. Let's just say it went from 100 to like 30 or so. Okay, remember I said breastfeeding works like supply and demand, right? So for me, I think it's the fact that I started going long hours without breastfeeding my baby, coupled with the stress from work and everything in between. One thing that really helped me to get my supply back on track was oatmeal. That thing works like magic. Okay, there was also this medication that my GP prescribed for me. I can't remember the name. If I remember, I'll put it on the screen. I started taking that as well, and I noticed that my milk supply gradually started improving. Another thing that helped me was pumping. Okay, I started pumping again. As soon as I get back from work, I would just connect my breast pump and start pumping. Even sometimes before I go to work, I wake up early in the morning, just connect my breast pump and start pumping. Okay, and I noticed that doing these three things really helped to get my milk supply back on track. So at a point, when I started working, at a point I only started breastfeeding at night, because that's the only time I got to spend a lot of time with my baby. So it was also at this time, like around the time when I went back to work, that's when I introduced solid to my baby. Okay, in fact, I remember the first time he had Cerelac baby rice was when I was at work. There was not enough milk to give him, because they had given him all the milk that I had pumped, and there was nothing left. Okay, he wasn't taking formula at that time, because I had tried different types of formula for him before I resumed work, and none was working. He would take them, he would vomit it. Now let's talk about confidence in breastfeeding, because I feel like that's something a lot of new moms might struggle with or might shy away from. So when I had my first baby, right, it felt really awkward and weird sometimes whenever I had to breastfeed around people. Okay, especially those first few days when people are visiting the baby, people are coming to check on you, to see how you're doing, see how the baby is doing. I remember on 2 occasions when I had to excuse myself from the visitors. I went into the room, breastfed my baby, and I came back, and I came out to join the conversation, right? But after a while, I got used to it, and whenever people are around me, whenever we had visitors, I'll be okay to just sit down there and breastfeed the baby, making sure that I'm well covered. Okay, I always had a cover cloth to cover myself. For me, I don't really think it was about confidence. For me, it was more like privacy. I just felt like I needed this privacy, a quiet area or a private area where I could breastfeed my baby. Okay, even till now, I'm still very conservative about breastfeeding. Whenever I'm out in the public, whenever I'm out and about and I needed to breastfeed my baby, the first thing I always look for is if there is any nursing room, or if there's any parent room around where I can go in and breastfeed my baby in privacy. Okay, and if there is none, I always have a cover cloth in my diaper bag, maybe a blanket or anything at all to cover my breast, because I just feel like it's not right to just expose your whole breast out there and just show to the world just because you're breastfeeding your baby. I know some people always say that breastfeeding is natural, you don't need to hide, you don't need to shy away from it, which is true. Okay, breastfeeding is natural, but I've also seen some moms or some people just bring everything out there in the open and just breastfeed their baby. I remember seeing this video on YouTube. It was a video about a woman where she was always breastfeeding her baby anywhere she is, at the shop, at the park. I remember even watching one where she was in the grocery shop. She was pushing the trolley with one hand and she had her baby on the other hand, breastfeeding her baby with almost all her boobs out, even the second boobs that the baby was not breastfeeding on, right? Now, to her, maybe in her defense, breastfeeding is natural, so why should I hide away from it? Okay, I don't know about you, but to me, I just feel like that's not right. Okay, just because you think breastfeeding is natural doesn't mean you should just be indecent about it. I'm not trying to judge her. Actually, I'm judging her. Yeah, I'm judging her. Anyways, let me know in the comment section. What do you think about privacy or confidence in breastfeeding? Do you think it's okay to just breastfeed anyhow in public, letting the whole world see the shape and size and color of your boobs? Or do you think breastfeeding is natural and it should be done with some type of decency and privacy? I really hope I'm not the only one that feels that even though breastfeeding is natural, you should do it with some type of decency and provide some privacy for yourself when you are doing so. Physical changes that comes with breastfeeding. I'm sure you've heard all this. Your breast will sag, your boobies will start looking down on you, they'll start hanging below. Yes, all of these are true, okay? At least I experienced some changes. I'm not gonna lie, okay? So you should also be ready to experience some changes, okay? Because breastfeeding comes with a price, okay? But when you look back, you should be happy that you did it. I mean, I have no regrets at all. I'm very happy that I was able to breastfeed my two babies, okay? Because trust me, there are some mothers that they really want to breastfeed, but for one reason or the other, they are not able to breastfeed. It's either they are not making enough milk, or maybe one medical condition or the other that makes them not to breastfeed their baby, okay? So if you're able to breastfeed your baby, I think it's something to be grateful to God about. Now, with the physical changes, you may notice that your areola will become darker. Actually, this normally starts happening even from the pregnancy days, and with your breasts you will notice that they feel softer, maybe bigger or smaller in size, and of course they'll be hanging loose, okay? And the reason behind this is not far-fetched, okay? Because when you were breastfeeding, the milk ducts were filling with milk and your baby was there to suck on them. When your baby empties it, it fills up again and becomes firm. But now that you're done breastfeeding, it's just hanging there, there's no milk coming in. Your breast may or may not fully go back to their pre-pregnancy size. Don't be alarmed, mamas, okay? Don't be discouraged about breastfeeding because of all these changes that you've heard or you've read about, okay? It's nothing that a good bra can't fix, okay? Except you want to go for some breast surgery or get some boob work done, okay? And that's totally fine, okay? I'm not here to judge you. Go for it. The last thing I'd like us to talk about today is breastfeeding and weight gain or weight loss in my own case, okay? Because tell me how every other mom I've come across always talks about how they gained a lot of weight with breastfeeding. But in my own case, I lost so much weight with breastfeeding, okay? In fact, breastfeeding was my number one ticket to losing all the baby fat or baby weight, or all the weight that I accumulated during pregnancy, okay? I've read somewhere that when you're breastfeeding, you're actually burning calories, okay? And coupled with the fact that I'm not really on the big side, I was not destined to be fat. Okay, so yeah, I lost a lot of weight with breastfeeding, even without trying, even without doing too much. So if you're a mom, let me know in the comment section, did you experience weight gain with breastfeeding, or did you experience weight loss just like I did, okay? My overall experience with breastfeeding, I would say I had pretty much a very good experience with breastfeeding. Like I mentioned before, I didn't have any issues with latching, I didn't have any issues with my milk production or milk supply, except the fact that my milk supply reduced when I went back to work, and I've already told you guys what I did to get it back up, okay? I know that breastfeeding is different for everyone, okay? Some moms might have it very easy like I did, while some people will find themselves struggling. Maybe they're struggling with their milk supply, they're struggling with latching, or just about any other breastfeeding issue, okay? This is just me encouraging you, okay? Seek help if you need to. Seek support if you have to. Do everything necessary if you really want to breastfeed your baby. And when you think you've exhausted all your options and you feel like formula is the only way out, by all means go for it, and don't feel guilty because you know you've tried everything possible and it didn't work. Yeah, that's it for my breastfeeding 101 masterclass. Okay, thank you so much for coming to my breastfeeding 101 masterclass. Okay, and let me know in the comment section if you want me to make any other video about breastfeeding, or just maybe any other postpartum topics that you would like me to talk about. Okay, thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye guys.